In Fairfield County, something new comes across my desk every day. Crimes are committed, cases are solved, and a community is made safe by the hardworking employees of the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office.
Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phelan, a weekly program here on LancasterOhio.tv, and we're also carried by a number of radio affiliates here in Lancaster. Do appreciate you, the viewers and listeners that join us each and every week. We're also carried on the Sheriff's Office, our website, and also with Fairfield Christian Church, where this program is produced by the Academy. Our behind-the-scenes executive producer is Kelly Roberts, does a great job lining the guests up and getting a lot of the questions together. And certainly I do appreciate the viewers and listeners that join us each and every week. Back for the second week by popular demand, Lieutenant Caplinger, Post Commander of Post 23 right here in Lancaster. Glad to have you back.
Thanks for having me back, Sheriff.
So tell me a little bit, we didn't mention this, a little bit about your family. You've got 3 kids?
God's blessed me. My wife Jenny and I have 4 children.
4, okay.
Yeah.
I missed one there.
We stay busy, but
Yeah.
what a blessing. So,
Yeah. What's some family time? What are some of the things you do with the family?
Well, we like to spend time together. You know, we attend church in Circleville.
Nice.
And the kids are active in that. They go to New Hope Christian School.
Okay.
And they're active in sports.
Mm-hmm.
So the oldest 3 are doing sports, and I'm sure number 4 will do sports as well when she gets old enough. So we spend a lot of time at the ballparks.
Yeah, know a little bit about Christian education. My wife was a teacher at Fairfield Christian Academy for many, many years, and enjoyed it thoroughly. Mm-hmm. So we covered a lot of ground last week.
We did.
And one of the things we mentioned after the program is the Highway Patrol has a program called Trooper in a Truck.
Trooper in a Truck.
Say
yes,
that
sir.
10 times.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's kind of a new program. But,
Okay.
You know, we talked last week about distracted driving.
Yep.
And, you know, how to try to encourage folks to not do that. Well, there's also an enforcement side of that, you know. And as we all drive around in Fairfield County and throughout the state and country, you see folks on their cell phone.
Yes.
So, you know, we're currently trying to get a trooper maybe in a position where they can observe a violation and then call that out to another trooper. So we've put them in a commercial vehicle so they can set up a little bit higher and observe, you know, what folks are doing. And that'll hopefully keep everyone safe.
Yes.
And deter these selfish acts from occurring.
Yes. So do they see a lot of people? They have a lot of violations when they're up there?
We haven't seen a lot. Like I said, it's a new program, but
Okay.
we have made at least one enforcement contact, you know, based on that violation, and hopefully the word will get out. And you know, we'd like to see people voluntarily comply with the state law, and we wouldn't have to worry about it. But we all know better, so we're trying to do what we can to enforce those laws.
But then there's even some thing a lot of people still don't understand. If you have your windshield wipers on, you put your headlights on. I think that's relatively new law, but I see a lot of people that still aren't doing that.
It is new, and it's for safety. You know, when you look at these laws, some folks ask why there's so many laws, you know, but when you boil it all down, it's to make you safe.
Right, right. And what's amazing to me is we still see people that do not use their seatbelts. And that's hard for me to understand because to me, I don't even realize I put it on anymore because it's like you just put it on, you don't even think about it anymore. Mm-hmm. So we still seeing some of that?
Absolutely. About half of our fatal crash picture is seatbelt related.
Well, I didn't know that. That's surprising.
Yes, and it's tragic.
Yes.
So many times we get to the scene and you see, you know, the car has done its job.
Yeah.
The compartment is intact. Someone would have survived that, but by merely not being in that habit, as you spoke of, not having the habit of putting their seatbelt on when the moment of truth happened, they didn't have it on, and it was too late to put it on, and then now these folks are seriously injured or killed out of this traffic crash that they could have survived.
And even a short distance. I mean, I've heard that statistically there's a disproportionate number. You're within like maybe 5 miles of your home when these tragedies occur.
Right.
So, and with the technology in the cars, they're safer than ever. You know, they have the side airbags now. They have they used to have the dashes that were metal with people thrown into them. They didn't have seatbelts. So the cars have gone a long way, but motorists still have to do their part.
Yes, they do.
So one thing we see a lot, we've been in summertime, that's when people get their motorcycles out. So let's talk a little bit about motorcycle safety.
Well, we do a lot to educate the public. Most motorcycle riders will tell you about the crash that they've been involved in or the close call that they've been involved in, unfortunately. And it's not always their fault. Someone pulls out in front of them. So there's a pretty good campaign out, Watch Out for Motorcycles. The local post that we've worked with Motorcycle Ohio and tried to distribute materials to really get the education, points out that folks should wear the proper equipment. They should have a helmet on. They should not ride outside of their skill levels.
Right.
A lot of folks travel through this area and they love the rural scenic, routes that we have, but if they're not safe and they ride outside of their skill level, they can be hurt or killed on these motorcycles.
Or not wearing helmets, kind of the basic stuff.
Right.
And I think there is kind of, and I'm guilty of this myself, sometimes you just don't see the motorcycles right away. It's not like a car. I mean, they're there, they've stopped in front of you, but you just don't have, your field of vision is not picking it up like you do a car. That'd be fair to say?
Yes, sir.
So again, you want to be cautious about things. One of the things that the highway, I guess, share this, some of the different responsibilities that the Highway Patrol does. When I was a Columbus police officer, many times I was assigned to the Ohio State Fair, and the troopers were a big presence there. I bet you've been there.
Yes, sir.
And so what are some of the other things that you guys do beyond what we see on the highway?
Well, a trooper's job is to investigate crime and enforce the law on any state-owned or leased property. So at the state fairgrounds, that's why you see the troopers there. So any type of state property where they're having an event or a function, or there's some type of security means, even the state prisons, you'll see the troopers, they're investigating crimes or trying to prevent crimes on top of the duties that you see us performing out on the highways, keeping folks safe.
And then there's been a big push in recent years as far as the narcotics enforcement with the Highway Patrol.
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of drugs, and we've seen a lot of drugs coming into our community. So, fortunately, we work together, and we all work together with our local law enforcement, but we're trying to intercept and interdict those drugs before they reach the community. So we know they're traveling on our highways. We know that the sellers are selling and shipping it across highways, so we're trying to intercept that. And, our personal users are driving back and forth, sometimes impaired, and we're trying to remove them before someone gets hurt.
If you know the answer to this, what percentage of fatalities are related to individuals that are using drugs and or alcohol?
It's about 40% currently.
So almost, 40%. The fatalities could be eliminated just by that one. That's amazing to me.
Based on drugs and alcohol use.
Any age categories?
No, we don't see it typically with the elderly. So the middle age or the younger aged is usually where those numbers come in at.
So probably that when the most dangerous time probably is for the inexperienced drivers, and then up into the 20s and just careless behavior sometimes. And I mentioned last week, every time one of my grandkids get their driver's license, I start praying for them because it really worries me because that is, I think, we always think these tragedies happen to other people, but one of the most dangerous things that young people can be doing is when they're driving cars. And especially if they're not experienced, if they've never been on slippery highways, they've never driven in snow, that is some scary stuff. We talked about this last week, and I think it's important to talk about it again. Parents have quite a responsibility whenever their kids start driving. And so let's just share some things. I know we talked a little bit about this last week, about what parents can do to make sure that their kids are as safe as they can possibly be.
Well, I think parents need to have those conversations with their children. Why it's important to follow the laws, why the laws are there, why it's good to have a habit of putting on your seatbelt immediately, leaving the distractions away, not drinking and driving, not have a plan in place if something does happen, how to get a responsible driver. But you brought up the best point is leading by example. So your children will model after you and your behaviors and what traits you exhibit towards them. So if you commit all of the wrong things in front of them, the old saying, do as I say, not as I do, well, that really doesn't work.
Right.
Because you're showing them bad habits, and they're going to pick up on this.
And again, it's an honor to be able to drive. And when kids show that they're not responsible, when they get a ticket or parents become aware of it, they need to take some immediate and sometimes actions that may not be pleasant for the young driver, right?
Absolutely.
So tell us any one of the good things that we've done partnerships over the years is we do our sobriety checkpoints. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about how a sobriety checkpoint works and some of the things that go into putting those into place.
Sure. A lot of statistics have to be gathered for a sobriety checkpoint. So we find a location where there's a lot of OVI-related crashes, a lot of OVI-related arrests, and we try to saturate an area like that. And an OVI checkpoint is a deterrent, but it also is an educational piece that shows folks, hey, we're having a specific issue in this area, so we're going to have an OVI checkpoint. Now, I'll tell you I get a lot of questions on why do you tell everybody where your OVI checkpoint's going to be at, which is a good question.
That is a good question, right.
But my response is we tell folks where an OVI checkpoint's going to be at one night of the year, and we advertise it, and you'd be surprised, not you, but your viewers, that we still get folks that drive through checkpoints impaired, but every other night of the year, we're out looking aggressively, trying to target, these selfish OVI impaired drivers to remove them off the roadway before they can hurt themselves or someone else. So we may tell them where we're at one time, but I assure them we're out looking, and we're still gathering statistical analysis throughout the year to try to find out where our common trends are at and try to eliminate impaired driving.
How important has MAD been as far as their ability to help keep the public informed?
I think MAD does a great job. And Mothers Against Drunk Driving is a great organization, but it's pretty tragic when you watch their stories.
Yeah.
When you see how it's impacted them and their lives. So, I do everything that I can to help them, and I think they do a great job reaching out in the community. But if folks can just look at them as the model, as their lives have been affected, right. And just like we always say, one fatal crash is one too many, because it affects a family, a coworker, a friend. It affects so many others that it really drives home the point that we've got to prevent them before they can happen, because it affects so many others. So my hat's off to all the courageous folks that are in MAD and support that organization.
Yeah, one group that you just pray you never have to be a part of, as far as because it is so tragic to lose a child.
Yes.
Well, it's been a couple years since you've been on. We'd like to have you back a little bit more often than that, because you've got a lot of good information. Do appreciate you sharing with us the last couple weeks.
Appreciate you, Sheriff.
With us this week, the commander of Post 23 here in Lancaster, Lieutenant Caplinger, does a great job, he and all the troopers here throughout Fairfield County in the state of Ohio. Well, the clock on the wall says we're out of time. Until next week, same time, same place. God bless, and be careful out there.